Hello everyone, this is Aditya Veldi from ENH iSecure. In this presentation, we are going to look about SailPoint SAP integration of HR system and ECC system. Agenda for this meeting is we are going to look about SAP and out-of-the-box SailPoint SAP integrations, that is SAP HR or HCM integration and SAP Direct Integration. So during this presentation, we are going to look about what is SAP HR HCM system is and what are the integration prerequisites and HR system integration. And also we are going to look about SAP Direct and what are the prerequisites for direct integration and direct integration procedure and use cases that we have implemented. So we are going to look about SAP and SailPoint integrations. So prior starting to SAP and SailPoint integrations, let us start with an introduction of SAP and what the advantage of SAP. Usually business models often have decentralized data management with each business functions storing its own operational data in a separate database. This makes it difficult for employees from different business functions to access each other information. Furthermore, duplication of data across multiple departments increases its IT storage cost and risk of data errors. By centralizing data management, SAP software provides multiple business functions with single view of truth. Thus, this helps companies better manage complex business processes by giving employees of different departments easy access to real-time insights across the enterprise. As a result, businesses can accelerate workflows, improve the operational efficiency, raise productivity, and ultimately increase the profits. So, on a whole, SAP is one of the leading enterprise application software, helps in centralize data management across the organization, provides real-time insights across the enterprise. So as we know, there are multiple products with respect to SAP. On a high level, they come under these six core products. They are ERP and finance, CRM and customer experience, spend management, supply chain management, HR and people management, business technology platform. So coming to each of the module that is core products that is provided by SAP. SAP ERP is an enterprise resource planning solution and finance is used to store financial data of the organization. Helps the organization to analyze the financial condition of the organization in the market. CRM and customer experience product which deals with handling the customers effectively and efficiently. Coming to spend management, gives insights on company spend and analyze future spend of the company. Supply chain management is one of the key module of SAP ERP that controls production planning, business forecasting, and demand planning. HR and people management is also known as HCM module that is used to manage employees in the organization. Coming to business technology platform of SAP brings together of data management, analytics, artificial intelligence, application development, automation, integration into one unified environment. So on a whole, these are the six core products that SAP provides. Coming to SailPoint. SailPoint IdentityNow is a market leader in providing identity and access management solution as a SaaS product. IdentityNow is centralized solution for identity and access management. So SailPoint is a SaaS product that provides a cloud-based solutions for identity governance. So let us see how SailPoint is used to integrate SAP in target systems. So as a SailPoint out of the box provides various connectors with respect to vendor specified solutions. So SAP vendor solution names such as SAP Business Suite or ERP, SailPoint provide directed connector called SAP Direct. SAP Governance Risk and Compliance have a directed connector called SAP GRC. For SAP HANA, we have a direct connector called SAP HANA. For SAP Human Resource Management System, SailPoint provides SAP HR direct integration. For SAP Portal, we have a SAP Portal connector. For SAP S4 HANA Cloud, we have SAP S4 HANA Cloud connector. For SAP Sybase, we have a Sybase connector. So these are all different ID and character that is provided by SailPoint for the identity now. In this current blog, we are going to discuss about SAP HR connector and SAP Direct Connector. So let us start with SAP HR or HCM integration. So in the SAP HR HCM is one of the key module in SAP products as we have seen. It is used to manage employees in the organization. HCM provides many sub-modules under it. They are organization management, time management, personal management, payroll management, recruitment management, training and event management, travel management. So we will see how they are integrated internally. So coming to the concept that should be understood, SAP provides a GUI where user can interact with the SAP HR underlying system. By using the integration middleware, the data is stored in the different modules that is provided internally. That is organization management, time management, personal management, payroll management, recruitment management, traveling management, and training management. Organization management includes personal development, personal cost planning, and event management. Time management includes time, recording, attendance, timesheet, shift management, etc. Personal administration module includes personal and organization structure, info types, integration with time, payroll, etc. Payroll deals with payroll types, payroll group configuration, primary and secondary wages, gross pay, and bonus. Recruitment management includes hiring of an employee, maintaining HR master data, etc. Training management contains identifying training needs of the employee, scheduling trainings for the employee, training costs that is handled. Coming to travel management includes managing official trips, cost management for travel expenses of the employee. So, on a whole, the HCM system includes all the data with respect to organization, time, personal, payroll, recruitment, travel, and training management of an employee in a different info types. Coming to info types, SAP info types is an information unit used to store employee-related data that is required for administration. So internally, it is represented by a four-digit code. So starting from 0000 to 9999. So data related to specific info types are stored in a single screen. So as we have discussed in the previous slide, SAP HR system provides a GUI. So based on the info types that are comes under a specific info type that are stored in a single screen. So there are multiple info types such as personal data, organizational data, address, and account data. So this is used to store employee information under a single screen from the GUI of the HR system. Even the info types can store uh, historical data of the employee. So for each and every info type that is provided by HR system will contain a start date and end date that is known as validity period. So in such a way, the employee can also have a historical data that is maintained. So there are some other concepts that need to be understood. That is SAP ECC on SAP NetWeaver. So SAP NetWeaver is a technology platform for all SAP-based applications. From SAP NetWeaver 2004 onwards, all the SAP present and future SAP applications based on NetWeaver only. So you can think of it, SAP is a technological platform. So it is not an application that we maintain. It is a technological platform where all the SAP systems are built. So it's content collection of software applications that we use it to build the SAP systems to develop the web applications, and it will also have a capability to reporting and analytical capability here, such as it by having its own database, and also it's used it can handle the lifecycle management and have internal own servers. So we can develop these web applications or SAP applications using ABAP or Java, ABAP or Java. So, for example, if we are building SAP ECC system that handles financial accounting, sales distribution, material management, HCM. So not only these four modules, SAP ECC contains many other modules, but these are built based on the SAP NetWeaver technological platform. It contains its own database and lifecycle management system. It have its own servers. So it is a technological platform that serves as a core for all the SAP products that are currently in use. So coming to infrastructure components, so let us understand the entire infrastructure architecture over here. So whenever a client is communicating to SAP source system via secure network communication, so it is passing through a firewall, and we have a SAP dispatcher, SAP gateway in place. So what is a SAP dispatcher is? It is a controlling agent that manages the underlying resources. Functioning of a dispatcher is to equal distribution of transactional load of the work process management of a buffer areas in main memory to integration of presentation levels, organization, communication activities. So what dispatcher does is whenever the clients are communicating to entire system, it will load balance the system. It will communicates to a specific internal system based on the load. So what does the SAP gateway does? SAP gateway will provide a ways to connect to devices, environments and platforms to SAP software. So what the gateway does is whenever any unauthorized communication is trying to access the SAP internal sources, that will block the connections. If the connection is authorized, it will route the SAP connection to a target system that is being authorized. And we also have a gateway secured block where unauthorized access data will be blocked and the channel will be secured. So mainly the SNC component is used to uh, encrypt the data that is flowing from client to entire SAP sources or entire SAP sources to client. So this is a secure network communication where the data is entirely encrypted in format. So this is the infrastructure architecture where the client is trying to communicating to SAP sources. So with respect to these SAP dispatcher component, gateway component, and gateway secured component, these are the ports that must be open in the SAP system. So the port name is SAP dispatcher. The services name is SAP DP followed by NN. So the default port will be 3200. So the range can vary from system to system, that is 3200 to 3299. So we can write a generic rule where it holds two numeric characters after 32. Similarly, for gateway and gateway secured, so we have seen what is gateway and gateway secured, right? So for the gateway component, the services name is SAP GW followed by NN, two numbers. So where the default port is 3300, it can range from system to system, that is 3300 to 3399. So we can add a generic rule for 33 followed by two numeric that allows two numeric values, that is 0 to 9. Similarly for the gateway security as well. So the only change in the services name is GW followed by two numeric characters and followed by a S where it will specify the secured. So these are the required ports that need to be open in SAP in target sources. That is SAP HR or HCM system. Coming to libraries, the SAP Java connector, SAP JCO, is a development library that enables a Java application to communicate with on-premise SAP systems via SAP RFC protocol. So RFC is a SAP protocol to handle communications between systems to simplify the related programming. So in this process of calling a function module, which is residing on a different machine from caller program. So these are the functional modules where the functions will be called from the entire systems in order to invoke some specific action in SAP system. So let us understand some key concepts, that is RFC, SAP role, and authorization object. RFC are the remote functional calls that are made between SAP system and also in between SAP and non-SAP systems. So, such as we are integrating this SAP HR system to SailPoint, we include these libraries, that is JCO and jar files. So SAP JCO and jar file that will upload it to SailPoint will help us to make the RFC calls to SAP HR system. So, what is SAP role? These roles are assigned user based on the user, so such that he can have a different data visibility based on the role that is assigned. So, coming to authorization objects, SailPoint has some 20 authorization objects. So, these can be combined in a different combinations to have a different permissions for a specific user. So we will understand these authorization objects when we are assigning test connection permissions, aggregation and provisioning permissions to a user account or admin account, that will help us to integrate SAP HR system to SailPoint. So this is a high-level architecture where we are integrating SAP HR system to Identity Now Cloud, that is SailPoint Identity Now Cloud. So here the SailPoint VA plays a prominent role. So we are directly not communicating from SailPoint Identity Now Cloud to SAP HR system. So we have a medium called SailPoint Virtual Appliance, where the entire communication, that is to end target system, that is SAP HR system that we are integrating over here, uh, flows through SailPoint Virtual Appliance. So as I have specified in a previous slide, we will upload jco.jar and jco.so library files to Identity Now Cloud. So here you can see, I said jco.so file, right? So if in case the SAP system is hosted on a Linux system, we are using jco.so library file. If in case SAP HR system is internally hosted on a Windows server, we will use jco.dll files over here. So the jar file is common. The only change in the library file, that is jco.so. So in our integration, the SAP HR system is hosted on the Linux server. So Unix or Linux server. So we are using .so library file. If we have hosted in a Windows server, we need to use jco.dll files. So this is a high level architecture where we integrate identity now. Where we integrate SAP HR system to identity now cloud. So, in the Entity Now Cloud, we are considering SAP HR system as a truth source. So, let us understand what is the importance of truth source. So, the SailPoint main motto is to govern to for the identity governance and management. So, whenever we are uh, aggregating the accounts from SAP HR system, those identities need to be created in Identity Now Cloud. So where we can manage all the entire system from SAP HR system, such as SAP Direct Connectors, ECC, HANA, or any other systems. So here, the while aggregating SAP HR accounts to Identity Now Cloud, SAP HR system is acting as a truth source where all the identities in SailPoint Identity Now are created through this source. So this is a truth source in our integration. So SAP HR system integration supports these three features. One is aggregation, provisioning, and delta aggregation. So let us understand what is aggregation, provisioning, and delta aggregation. Ag- Aggregation is nothing but we are aggregating all the SAP employee accounts from SAP HR system to Identity Now. So as I have said, SAP HR system is a truth source. We are creating identities for all those accounts that are situated or present in the SAP HR system. Provisioning. So there are some cases where the data that need to be written back to SAP HR systems, but the changes that we made to the end target accounts, that is in the SAP HR accounts. So we have a future supported feature from SailPoint where we can provision user accounts to SAP HR system. So coming to delta aggregation. So in the aggregation, even there are no specific data level changes for all the accounts, that the data will be aggregated to identity now. So this may increase the load in the SailPoint identity cloud system. So we have a feature called delta aggregation, where it will only aggregate those data that is changed from the last aggregation. For example, one user have the data with respect to his address that is only changed in the from the previous aggregation. So delta aggregation only aggregate that user account data to identity node rather than aggregating all the user accounts data that is remained same from the previous aggregation. So these are the three main features that is supported by SailPoint. It's aggregation, provisioning, and delta aggregation. So supported info types. So as I have already discussed, there are some informational types that are assigned for the SAP HR system, where the related this similar data is stored, right? So SailPoint support these five info types, that is action info types, organization info types, personal data, addresses, and communication. So action will specify whether user is hired or he's on a terminated, such type of actions. So coming to organization assignment, it will specify the organization structure where the user resides. Coming to personal data, such as his first name, last name, and email ID, such kind of data, personal related data are stored here. Coming to addresses, where the user address is stored, such as permanent address or a work location address, such kind of data is stored in the 0006 info type. Coming to communication info type, where the user communication data such as phone numbers, work phone numbers, contact numbers, work mail IDs, such type of information are stored. So these are five supported info types from the SailPoint IdentityNow HR integration. So once the prerequisites are met, so this is the one of the prerequisite that need to be met. That is integration. Coming to integration, where the service account permissions that need to be done. So whenever we are integrating SailPoint HR system to SailPoint SAP HR system to SailPoint Identity now, oh, we need a service account where these operations must be performed by the service account. So those operations are test connection, account aggregation, and provisioning. So as I've discussed, right? So there are some supported features from SailPoint. That's aggregation, provisioning, and delta aggregation. So prior to aggregation, we need to test the connection. That means SailPoint identity now is able to communicate with the entire system or no. So that is the permission that is required for the test connection. Coming to account aggregation, so we already discussed that account aggregation, that is nothing but we are getting the accounts from SAP HR system that is considering a truth source and creating the identity in a SailPoint identity now. Coming to provisioning, where in some situations where we need to write back the data from SailPoint identity now to SAP HR sources. So in that case, so these are the three permissions that are required for a service account that we are going to create. So in order to have those permissions in SAP HR system, we have authorization objects. So, so coming to main, these are the main authorization objects that we have different combinations and data that we'll store. Coming to SRFC, it is used to check whether the RFC call is authorized or not. So as we have discussed, right, entirely SAP systems is depend on a RFC protocol, where the Java library files and the jar files will call a specific remote functional call that will execute the function that we have called as per our requirement. So SRFC, you use it to check whether the RFC is user is authorized to execute a RFC call or not. And S underscore debut underscore this. This is one another authorization object use it to protect tables using authorization groups with the activity. So this is used to protect the tables. So in the SAP system, so the data is stored in the internal database in the form of a tables. So these authorization groups will protect the SAP HR tables from unlegitimate activities. Coming to P origin, so authorization objects that is used during the authorization check for HR info types. These checks takes place when HR info types are edited or read. So this P origin is also one another authorization types where it will check whether the user is authorized to modify or read or change the info types that are specified. So as we know that entirely the data is stored in a different info types for a specific screen. So whenever is user is trying to change the data that is stored or read the data that is stored, these authorization checks will be taken place. So these are some important authorization objects that we need to understand. So coming to the permissions required for test connection. So this is the authorization object that need to be configured in the SAP HR system. So that is authorization object called SRFC. So as we know that the test connection is only to test whether the SailPoint identity now is able to communicate from SailPoint identity now system to SAP system or not. So that is the main motive over here for test connection. The activity type is to execute. So the RFC name, the remote functional call name is RFC ping. So generally the ping what we know just to test whether we are able to communicate with the system or not, whether the communication is stable or not. On a similar fashion, the RFC ping is the RFC remote functional call name where it will try to communicate from SailPoint identity now system to end target system. These are the RFC types, that is FUGR and FUNC. So this is the authorization object that need to be configured in the SAP HR system for the test connection purpose. Coming to account aggregation, so as I have said, this is another permission that is required by the service account. So this is a SRFC object that need to be configured, and these are all the RFC names that need to be permitted for the account aggregation. That is BAPI employees common get details and BAPI employees get data, BAPI's employee get list, and BAPI personal data get list similarly. So these are all the different RFC names that are configured that need to be configured under the SRFC authorization object for the account aggregation purpose. Coming to escape this. So as we discussed, this is the authorization object that will protect the tables from unauthorized fetching the data or reading the data. So that activity is set to only display. Similarly, uh, so in order to get all the all the information that is required, right? The S tab U name NAM. So this is another authorization object that need to be configured, where these are all the tables where the data is fetched from. These are all the table names that you can see. HRP 1001, HRP 1000, and PA 0000. So these are all the table names that the account schema attribute that need to be populated from the SAP. So these are the table names that need to be included in order to populate the account schema attributes of SAP HR system. So if we want to enable the delta aggregation, that is a supported feature of SailPoint identity now, we also need to include these two table names, that is PA0006 and PA0105. So these are the two table names that need to be included in order to achieve the delta aggregation feature. Coming to P origin, so as we have seen, P origin is used to authentication check when we are trying to edit or read the info types of the SailPoint SAP HR system. So you can see the auth C. The field name is auth C. That will specify the authorization level, that is read. So when coming to aggregation, just we are reading the data from SAP HR system to SailPoint IdentityNow. So it is providing the read permission to these info types. That is 0001, 0002, 0003, 0006, 0032, 01, 05. So these are the info types that SailPoint supports that can be read from SailPoint SAP HR system to SailPoint. Coming to subtype, this is one of the important field. For example, there are subtypes for any info type. For example, address may have subtypes. So there may be, you can understand subtypes. For example, the address can be uh, a permanent address or a temporary address. So we can differentiate address that suit two subtypes. Similarly, for the communication as well. For example, if we have a contact number, we can differentiate it in two types, like that is personal contact number and office contact number. Similarly, for work email and a personal email. So these can be specified in the P origin authorization object. Coming to provisioning permissions, that is mostly depending on the BAPI, the RFC modules that need to be permitted for the SRFC authorization object. So these are the different values that need to be given to SRFC object in order to have a provisioning feature that need to be enabled. And also the P original authenticity, you can see, we can execute, edit, and write the data to SAP HR system from the in target system such as SailPoint. We are providing the SailPoint as a provisioning source, right? So we are providing this authentication level to the admin account that is used by SailPoint in order to make any changes in the info type, that is 0007. So these are the prerequisites that need to be have in place. One is the virtual appliance, where SailPoint identity now entire communication is go through, and also the service account with all the permissions, and the library jar files, that is uh, jco.jar and jco.so for Unix systems, and .dll library files for the Windows systems. So once all the prerequisites are met, we are good to go with the SAP integration. So once you open the SailPoint identity now tenant, so we will see the practical demonstration in a separate presentation. So in this, we will understand what and all other data that we require. So when you when you're integrating SAP HR system, this is the metadata that we are going to fill. That is source name, source description, source owner, virtual appliance cluster, governance group, and jar files. So in the basic configuration, we are going to write the name of the source and a small descriptive description. That can be understood whenever any third person can see. We can have a friendly description, user friendly description over here, and a source owner. And we can choose a source owner from the identities that are already present in the SailPoint identity node tenant. Coming to virtual appliance cluster, so as a prerequisite, we already have a virtual appliance in place in a specific cluster, right? So that cluster need to be chosen in the virtual appliance cluster. Coming to governance group, this is an optional thing, where if in case source owner is not available, the people of the governance group can perform those similar activities what a source owner can do. And that already that we have discussed, the jar files that need to be in place. One is jar file that need to be downloaded from SAP Marketplace, irrespective of the SAP system that we are integrating. And coming to .so file or a .dll file. If in case SAP HR system is installed on a Unix system, .so library files must be uploaded to SailPoint identity now. In case SAP HR system is installed on a Windows server, then the .dll library files must be imported. So this is with respect to basic configuration. Coming to connection settings, so as in the prerequisites, we already have a service account in place. So in the connection settings, we need to fill the username of service account and password of that service account, and also the host IP address where the SAP is installed, and the system number where the SAP is installed. So these are the main two things with respect to SAP system. This is the IP address of the SAP system and the system number. Now, this is a three-digit number that is given for each and every SAP that is installed. So these need to be configured, and also a client number. So the client number is nothing but a client record in the SAP HR system, who can who where the permissions are granted for that account, right? For example, in our case, that is a service account. So the service account record will have a number for each and every record that is present in that table. So that is a client number that is allocated to our admin account or a service account. So coming to client language, uh, generally by default that will be English. So we need to specify the two-digit code for the language that the client is reading. That is the SAP HR system that is fetching the data in the English language. So we will specify the English code as EN in the SailPoint IdentityNow UI configuration. So this is all with respect to connection settings. Coming to SAP uh, aggregation part. So in the aggregation part, we will see how we can aggregate different type of users. So here we can aggregate two types. One is future hires and one is terminated users. So for the future hires, this aggregate all future hires within a specified day range. So we have field that need to be filled, where we can specify the integer values. So if we specify 0 in that future dated hired offset, future hires of offset aggregated to SAP system. So if we specify 0, the future hires will not be aggregated to identity now. So what is meant by future hires? For example, the user is getting hired to SAP's or the organization of where the SAP's system is situated on the next week. So those are the future hires, or the tomorrow is the next day is also a future hire. So in that case, if we don't want to aggregate the future hires, we can simply specify 0 over there. So if we left blank that field, all the future hires will be aggregated to identity now. So if we don't want to aggregate the future hires, simply specify 0. If we want to aggregate future hires also, just leave the blank as a value over there. No need to fill any value. So if we want to hire a specific offset users, for example, all the users that are coming to organization in the next 1 week, so you can specify the offset as 7. So where all the upcoming employees to our organization in the next 7 days will also be aggregated to identity now. Similarly, we have a termination offset in days. So it will specify terminated users as well. So this aggregates all inactive employees within a specified day range. So similarly, as we see in the future hires, in the terminated users also we will have a field where we can fill the numeric value. So if we specify 0 as a numeric value, this will not aggregate any terminated users, that is inactive users that are terminated from the organization. If we want to aggregate all the inactive users of the organization, just leave it blank. So if we want to aggregate only specific offset of users, for example, who are terminated in the last 1 week. So if you want to aggregate a such type of users, you can specify the offset as 7, or you can specify any positive numeric value that will aggregate those people that are terminated from current date. So this is with respect to different type of aggregation, that is future hires and terminated users. Coming to manage aggregation, in the SAP HR system, the data or the employees are managed in the two different models. That is, one is OOSP model and SS model. Coming to we will see in detail about what are these models are. So, in the OOSP model, this model deals with the chief organization model, where the employees relation between position of employees and organization unit is detected. So, where the chief of the organization will have the visibility over the employees. So, irrespective of the reporting, he will have the entire view of the employees under his organization. So this is with respect to OOSP model. Coming to SS model, so in the group of employees, we will have a managers as well. So for example, the first user is a manager for all other three users. So he'll be also have the visibility over only his reporting employees, and also chief of the organization will have the entire visibility of the employees under his organization. So we can choose either OOSP model that we are that is being followed in the SAP HR system, or SS model. So generally, the implementation will follow the SS model only, where the managers can also have the visibility over his reportees. Coming to additional settings, so SAP SailPoint also supports BAPS. BAPS stands for Business APIs. So BAPS are published programs in the SAP system that are used to generally perform customized operations on the SAP system. So SAP provides a lot of features. So if we want any customizations to those features, we can use BAPS. So that are developed in a uh, Java programs, or a ABAP programs that can be developed using the business APIs. So generally, ABAP is a language that is used to develop business APIs or a BAPS. So SailPoint supports two types, that is custom BAPI for aggregations and custom BAPIs for additional attributes. So let us understand what is aggregation filters that is supported for business API. One is with respect to aggregation filters of BAPI, additional attributes BAPI. So aggregator filter BAPI to aggregate the filtered list of employees from a SAP HR system. So if we want to filter, if we don't want to aggregate all the employees, and we want to aggregate only employees on a specific condition, such as status, termination offset, a future offset, or a mode of aggregation. So based on this status also, we can aggregate the users, and also termination offset and future offset that's already discussed. So these PAPS can be used to customize and filter out the aggregation operations to SailPoint IdentityNow. Coming to additional attributes BAPI, so when we are aggregating identity data to IdentityNow, the default account schema attribute that will be aggregated to IdentityNow. If we want to aggregate any extra additional attributes to identity now, that need to be manually included in the account schema. So for example, if you want to include manager name, last working day, and global identity of the user, that is not coming part of the account schema aggregation. So we can have the BAPS that is implemented in the SAP HR system. We can call those directly BAP that are implemented, and these additional attributes that we are specifying right in the BAPI, that need to be manually entered a account schema of the SAP. The next thing we are going to see about delta aggregation. We can enable delta aggregation, that is one of the supported feature by SailPoint Identity Now, that will aggregate only the data that is changed from the last aggregation. So we have an account schema attribute called info type 0000 JSON that will specify the attributes that are going to change on a specific date. So based that will have an action type as well. For each and every data that is going to change, we'll have an action type. So based on the action type, we can aggregate those values to identity now. So we will see in the practical demonstration when we are showcasing the info type that is 0000 JSON. Coming to additional schema attributes, so not only the basic account schema attributes that has first name, last name, start date, end date, not only those such type of attributes, the account schema attributes also have four additional attributes that is called state to current, state to next start date, effective dates. So these are the four different account schema attributes. The state to current will specify the current status of employee, that is active or inactive. The state to next will specify future employee status. For example, based on the action type, what will be the future employee status? That will user will be active or inactive in future. Based, another next attribute is state to next start date. So effective start date of a future employment status in the following format will be specified. So the start date of the employee will be specified over here in this attribute in the format of YY hyphen hyphen DD. So year followed by month followed by date. So another final attribute is called effective dates. Stores the effective dates of for manager changing the last name change in the format. For example, the effective dates of any other attribute such as last name is going to change on a specific date or a supervisor ID is going to change on a specific date. So that dates are stored in the effective dates account schema attribute in a JSON format where it's a key value pair kind of thing. So coming to SAP HR provisioning, so SAP HR provisioning modify rule is used to modify the attribute values such as email, phone number, system username, etc. So we will see a demonstration of a modify rule uh, in a next presentation. So let's have a walkthrough of a code and that such that we can uh, develop such codes, rules and patch it to IdentityNow in order to change email, phone number or system username, etc. So coming to the final configuration, that is advanced configurations of SAP integration. So we will specify the communication configuration types. So for example, we have some subtypes for communications format, that is address, email and telephone number, right? So we can specify those subtypes for the advanced configurations as well. So this is with respect to SAP advanced configuration settings. So once these are configured in a proper manner, as we get the information from SAP HR system, so we can test the connection and we can aggregate the accounts to identity now, and based on the identity profile that you are creating for the SAP HR, the truth source, identities are created based on the identity data. So the sale point suggests us to not to include any personal information of the employee, such as social security number, that is SSN, or any banking details such as account number. That no, that we don't want to aggregate such type of data. So the personal identification information is need to be avoided when we are aggregating to SailPoint identity. So these will be the common issues where we can see the error while testing the connection through SAP router strings. So we can see these things when we are fail to have a proper library files or a permissions that are not as specified in the authorization objects that we specify. So coming to test connection failures. So if in case the test connection failures are occurring, so we need to specify the system library paths correctly. So in the VA system that we already have in place, so we need to specify the path to correct jar files and the library that is located. So these errors while also can occur during test connection aggregation as well. So these can occur due to failure in the account permissions that are given to service account. So as we specified in the permission that are required, that need to be properly given in order to avoid these common issues. So this is with respect to SAP HR integrations. So let us see about SAP Direct Integration. So coming to SAP Direct Integration, SailPoint IdentityNow supports following modules for managed systems. That is SAP ECC. SAP NetWeaver is the system module that is can be configured from SailPoint IdentityNow as well. Coming to SAP HR HCM system, SAP S/4HANA, SAP CRM, SAP Process Integration, SAP GRC, SAP SCM, SAP APO, and SAP underscore marketing. So these are the different direct connectors that SailPoint identity connector that can be supported. So in this current presentation, we are going to look about SAP ECC. So ECC stands for Enterprise Core Component. So ERP. So in ERP core component. ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning Core Component. So we will understand what is SAP ECC is. So SAP Direct is an ERP system that will integrate digital information from one business area to another business area in real time. So this is also a ERP core component, ECC system, where it will integrate different modules that is SAP is providing, such as financial accounting, quality management, product planning, human resource management system, and material management and sales and distributions. So the SAP ECC system serves as a central component where all the information integrated in a one single place, and that can be within the real-time changes as well. So, for example, if there are any changes in a HCM system that need to be reflected in a financial accounting or a material management, that will be reflected automatically via SAP ECC component. So for integrating SAP ECC source or SAP direct systems, SailPoint supports these four features. One is provisioning, aggregation, enabling or disabling accounts, and password management. So as we have seen already, provisioning is nothing but if we are having any account that need to be created in a SAP direct system, that is SAP ECC system, or that need to be modified, or that need to change any attribute level changes. So that can be done through identity now. Coming to aggregation, we can aggregate the SAP system direct connected system sources to identity now as well. So the all the accounts that are consisting in SAP system that can be aggregated to identity now cloud. So based on the so here we are considering SAP HR as a truth source and SAP ECC as a target system. So for example, user is getting terminated in the SAP HR system. Obviously, the SAP ECC system must be disabled. If in case the user is rehired or again came back to active state, that need to be enabled. So the enable and disablement of accounts can also be managed to identity now. And password management. So coming to password management, user can store his password to entire systems via identity now cloud. So these are the integration prerequisites that are similar to SAP HR system. The first thing is the virtual appliance cluster, where we can have the single virtual appliance, but SailPoint recommends to have a two virtual appliances in a cluster, such that if in case any virtual appliance is undergoing any maintenance or updation process, the another virtual appliance that serves as a reliable connection from Identity Now Cloud to SAP HR or a direct connected system. And the library files. So these are the library file that is required, that is jco.jar file and jco.so file. So as we discussed earlier, .so file when SAP system is uh, hosted on a Unix system, and .dll files must be imported when system is hosted on a Windows system. And coming to ports that need to be open, so already we have discussed like SAP dispatcher gateway and gateway secured ports that need to be open in order to have a reliable connection from SAP HR's direct system to SailPoint IdentityNow system, or a vice versa. So similarly, we need to have a service account for the SAP Direct Connector as well. So for that direct connector, SAP Direct Connection, the service account need to have these all permissions. That is test connection to test the connection from SailPoint Identity Now Cloud to SAP Direct System, and account aggregation. So, while aggregating accounts from SAP Direct System to Identity Now Cloud, entitlements aggregation. So, if a user holds any entitlements or permissions, that can also be aggregated to Identity Now. Coming to delta aggregation, where only the attribute level changes that are made from the last aggregation that can be aggregated to Identity Now. Creating an account. So as SailPoint also supports provisioning, this comes under the provisioning activity, where the creating an account or deleting an account or adding or removing entitlements. So these all comes under the provisioning activity. So in order to provision the accounts today, SailPoint SAP direct system, these permissions need to be provided, and also to change the password as well, and also to enable, disable, or unlock the entire system accounts. So these are all permissions that need to be provided for the service account that is creating on a SAP direct system. So coming to SAP direct configuration, so once all the prerequisites are met, that is with respect to virtual appliance cluster and jar files that need to be uploaded, and also the ports that need to be opened. So once those prerequisites are met, you can start integrating the SailPoint direct connector system. In our case, that is the ECC system. So once you create a source in SailPoint identity now, coming to the source configuration page, you can see connection credentials. So in the connection credentials tab, in the section of connection credentials, you need to provide the service account password, account name, and password. So service account username and password need to be provided. So that service account need to have all the permissions that are specified in the required permissions tab. In the server host section, you need to provide SAP host URL and the system number. Coming to client details, you need to provide the client number and the client language. So we have already discussed about the SAP system number, client number, and client language, and how they differ. Coming to custom connector files, so as a prerequisite, we need to have a jco.so file and jco3.jar files. So these .so will depend upon where the SAP system is hosted. So once we fill all the data in the connection configuration page, we'll try to test the connection from SAP SailPoint SAP Direct Connector that is configured to end-target system. So once we have a successful test connection, we can aggregate the accounts from from SAP Direct Connected source to SAP SailPoint Identity Now, and we can correlate those accounts to SAP. So once test connection is successful to SAP ECC direct connected source. So we can aggregate the accounts, and we can also aggregate entitlements from direct connected source, and we can correlate the accounts with the existing identities that are created from the SAP HR system, since we are considering SAP HR system as a truth source. So as part of our implementation, so we have implemented these use cases. So we will see a practical demonstration of these use cases in the next presentation. That is on-demand access request, separation of duties, and lever scenario and certification campaign. So these are the references that I took from. So stay tuned to ENH iSecure blogs for a practical demonstration of the specified use cases. Thank you.